The PayPal team almost bankrupt their company when just starting out. Despite this, these entrepreneurs now dominate the tech world. In this video, I'm going to reveal the strategies of the PayPal Mafia so you too can build your own billionaire dream team.
So this is an ATM. What we're going to do is transform the traditional banking industry.
One of the things that occurred at the time, we merged with our largest competitor, X.com, and both companies were basically growing exponentially at that point. Both companies were pretty close to running out of money.
And then all of a sudden, it was bought by eBay. So a bunch of these folks are like, okay, well, what do I do next?
Among the 20 or so core members of the PayPal Mafia, they created dozens of billion-dollar companies such as YouTube, LinkedIn, Tesla, and Reddit, to name but a few.
The most important thing for creating companies is you need a concentration of talent. You know, think of like a world sports team or something. You really want to focus your talent on a particular area.
So, what type of people should you look for?
It's not like we were a bunch of regular guys that got together, drank something special in the water, and everybody became an amazing entrepreneur. The reason so many people out of PayPal wound up starting more and more companies is not only because we saw on our own example that this could be really big and really amazing, it's also we selected from more people like us. We basically said, look, we want kids that have nothing to lose, that are just going to go big or go home every time, and that basically all think that this is their final training ground. Their next company is going to be their own. And that's exactly what happened.
Hiring entrepreneurs might seem counterintuitive, but if you think about it, these are the type of people who will give 100%. They will be better leaders and take the initiative. They will be more invested in the business and willing to take the risk of accepting equity as payment. These are exactly the type of guys you want in your startup. But the real question is, where can you find them?
If someone's just pitching you on a startup, how do you have a sense of whether it's going to be good or not? And of course, you can look at the individual people on the team, how smart they are, how talented. But the real question is, how well will they work together?
The PayPal crew was primarily recruited through friendship networks. So Peter recruited his friends who he had gone to college with at Stanford. Those people then recruited their friends. Max Levchin, who went to U of I, recruited his engineering friends.
Don't just hire your best friends, though. Hire the smartest and hardest working people you know. Max Levchin, former CTO of PayPal, said, A's hire A's and B's hire C's. So the first B you hire will take the company down.
The mind of your question is always the same. Tell me about some of the most difficult problems you worked on and how you solved them. That question, I think, is very important, because the people that really solve the problem, they know exactly how they solved it. They know the little details. And the people that pretended to solve the problem, they can maybe go one level and then they get stuck.
Now we know who to look for, where to find them, and how to validate them. Now, how do we manage this dream team?
The way both Zip2 and PayPal operate was really your canonical Silicon Valley startup. Pretty flat hierarchy. Everybody had a roughly similar cube. Anyone could talk to anyone. We had a philosophy of best idea wins, as opposed to the person proposing the idea winning because they are who they are.
As the CTO, I was really focused on not having engineers report to me. I kept on trying to hire a really seasoned VP of engineering, and for one reason or another, it just would not work out. And it was really just a whole plethora of specifics that didn't quite make it. But then I finally broke down and decided that I'm going to first take the reins into my own hands. But then pretty quickly, when I realized that I can't have 27 people at the time reporting to me directly, I started promoting from within. And it was this big change of my mind where I thought, these guys have no idea how to manage. I don't know how to manage. I'm 24 years old or 25, whatever. So it's going to be a mess. And it turned out that people just self-organized around natural leaders that were all 21, 22, 23 years old. And they just sort of learned management on the job.
Promoting from within also gives employees the opportunity to rise within your company, which means they'll be more likely to stick around for longer. However, as David O. Sachs, former COO of PayPal, will soon tell us, you must be cautious of having too many managers.
Everybody wants to be a manager. And so you can't just come at this problem by saying we're going to increase the number of reports that each manager has from 5 to 10. That doesn't work, because let me tell you what happens is that every individual contributor who's a star thinks that their career advancement requires them to manage a team. And the problem is it cascades. So, that IC becomes a manager, they hire 5 people, then those 5 people, one of them's a star and says, well, I want to be a manager. And all the organizational pressure is to keep building more and more teams and more layers Every like star builds a team around them to delegate the work, but then they hire a team to delegate the work to. And pretty soon the most junior interns in the company are doing all the work and all the best people are just managing. So you also have to reduce the number of layers in the company.
Before Elon took over Twitter, it was said that over 50% of the software engineers hadn't even submitted code in the previous 3 months. This is what happens when you incentivize all hard workers to become managers.
What we had learned from the PayPal experience was a really interesting learning, and that you could actually go revolutionize an industry with people who are very smart, working hard, and deploying a technology that people hadn't seen before.
Central to the construction of your dream team is the ability to nurture and learn from each other.
But part of the lessons that we learned from working with each other was being bold. This is precisely part of the thing that Peter's book in 0 to 1 is talking about, is doing something that's contrarian, which other people may not think is the good idea, like PayPal when we started, and then having the experience of succeeding in that.
If you're a founder or an entrepreneur, you should always aim to build a monopoly, where you're the only person in the world doing what you're doing. Imitation plays an enormous role. It's how we learn language as kids. It's how culture gets transmitted. But it also leads to a lot of insane behavior. It leads to sort of the madness of crowds. It leads to bubble-like behavior, which we've seen many in our society in recent decades. And so I think this challenge not to just reflexively imitate and to think for yourself is it's always very trivial to say, and it's always quite hard to actually do.
As equally important as thinking big and differentiating themselves, the PayPal Mafia taught each other business strategy.
They had the playbooks. They had the lessons that had worked so well at PayPal, specifically in being able to hack distribution, creating viral products. And those playbooks would go on to be used by the PayPal Mafia companies in the following years.
I think one of the ideas of startups, or the success of startups, is this idea of pivoting from what you were originally starting to doing something else instead. And PayPal, many people know what it is now. Many people use it as a P2P payment service or to business personal to business payment service. But when it first started, it was this Palm Pilot security application that, one, it never really got off the ground as a security app, and two, these days I don't know many people that still carry around Palm Pilots. But the valuable lesson there was just, if you take a look at what the users are doing, what the user feedback is, and if people aren't using it, taking that technology and maybe pivoting it towards something that the users will use. And we did that at PayPal when we took the security side of it and created a payment service on top of it. Same thing at YouTube.
And luckily for you, we've saved the best for last.
You were CEO of the company for most of 2000, I think. And yeah. Elon's company merged with another company.
Cook, yeah.
It became PayPal.
Right.
He was running the company. He went on an investment raising trip, and when he got back,
and that caused the management team to decide that I wasn't the right guy to run the company.
And
yeah.
How did you get past that kind of betrayal? I mean, how did you guys patch it up?
Better course of action is to turn the other cheek and make the relationship good, and it was. But I put a lot of effort into sort of making things good, and then actually recently the Founders Fund, which is comprised primarily of ex-PayPal people, including Peter, who replaced me as CEO, invested in SpaceX.
Yeah.
And I invested in Peter's things before that.
In order to grow your billionaire dream team, you must cultivate support and treat them as a family.
While PayPal itself did far better than we thought it was going to do when we founded it in 1998, I think the relationships have actually been the much more valuable piece.
It takes a network. If you want to build an amazing company, you build the network around you and around the company. It's a network of advice, a network of finance, a network of talent, a network of opportunities for your company. You need those networks.